The Queens of Spice podcast is created for adult audiences only. Our show contains cursing, vulgar content, dark humor, descriptions of sexual acts and desires, and is not suitable for listeners under the age of 18. Some episodes also contain themes which may be triggering for listeners. Please take care of yourself. Welcome to the Queens of Spice podcast. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Rachel O'Ragachu. I'm joined by my two BFFs, Ash and Jack.
Hi.
Jack's doing a wave.
Hi.
She's vibing over here. We're doing it. She's getting into War by Laura Thalassa. We are talking about book 2 of the Four Horsemen Series. Written in 2019. The last book was released in November 2021, so just over a year ago. Death. So they follow, the book series follows the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, which is fairly, a standard thing that I think a lot of people know about, biblically speaking. Do you know about the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, Jack? Can you name them?
No, I don't know anything about the Bible.
She could name the moon phases. Not the moon phases. The different kinds of moons that happen every month. She can name those.
Strawberry.
So,
Sturgeon.
That's a fish, isn't it?
Wolf moon.
It's also a moon.
Oh, is it really?
It's a kind of moon.
I didn't know that.
Hello, Mr. Moon.
So, we're talking about War, the second book. The first book was Pestilence. Yes.
No.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
Famine was the third one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes Pestilence, War, Famine, Death. Is the order the books are written in.
I got famine and pestilence mixed up.
That
Those
happens.
are horses? Of the apocalypse?
Horsemen.
What? The four horses of the apocalypse.
Are they the
My
ones?
Little Pony.
Oh, My Little Apocalypse Pony.
Oh.
I'd watch that.
I know. Yeah, that would have been your favorite childhood show.
Right. So War. The day Jerusalem falls, Miriam Almadi knows her life is over. Houses are burning, the streets run red with blood, and the traitorous army is massacring every last resident. There is no surviving this, especially not once Miriam catches the eye of War himself. But when the massive and terrifying horseman corners Miriam, he calls her his wife. And instead of killing her, he takes her back to the camp. Now Miriam faces a terrifying future, one where she watches her world burn town by town, and the one man responsible for it all, for her seemingly indestructible husband. But there's another side to him, one that's gentle and loving, and dead set on winning her over, and she might not be strong enough to resist. However, if there's one thing that Miriam has learned, it's that love and war cannot coexist. And so she must be she must make the ultimate choice: surrender to war and watch humankind fall, or sacrifice everything and stop him.
What?
He's
Riveting.
not a horse.
He is not a horse. He's a man.
He's hung like one, though.
Yeah.
He's a man horse, though? Horseman.
He's hung like a horseman.
Okay.
He's not a centaur.
He's not a centaur.
He's the opposite way of the centaur?
No.
Horse on top? Man on the bottom?
No.
I'd watch that. I'd read that too.
That just reminds me of the...
Isn't that what that fucking BoJack Horseman show is?
Oh yeah, I guess. I've never seen it, honestly.
Me
That reminds me of the Great Big Sea song where he's talking about the mermaid, but she's like the opposite way because guys don't want to fuck the fish end, they want to fuck the legs.
They want to fuck the bottom part, not the top part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you want to kiss the fish face?
Well, they're not going to kiss the fish face. They're going to fuck the legs and be done with the rest of it.
It's really complicated.
So is it a hooker where you're not allowed to kiss it?
I mean, you could kiss the fish if you wanted to, but it's...
So it's a hooker mermaid?
Is it like getting screeched in?
Anyway, so... yeah, this guy with his horse. He actually does have a horse.
Yeah.
They all have horses.
His horse is named Deimos. Deimos. He's listed under the characters. He's red. That's how you know he's War's horse. He's very red.
All the horses of the Apocalypse Men are different colors.
They are, and hilariously in Pestilence, for example.
Green.
I think he's black.
I thought he was white.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. He's white. He's not named, And so in that
His
book,
horse.
the horse is not named.
It's a horse.
Yeah.
And then she names the horse.
So she names a horse instead.
Yeah,
So
delightful.
all of the, I will precursor this. All of the Horseman books feature a horseman and a woman. The books all follow a woman.
They have roughly the same structure. Like,
Very much so.
yeah, it's what I think was kind of interesting about these books is that they followed the same format, but they managed to maintain their individuality in that. Well, I shouldn't say they all follow the same format. They're generally the same, but then death happens, and that's just
Yeah, I mean, but they all still follow that, like, you know, there's a horseman and there's a woman, and the woman has been sent here by God potentially
woman
to
meets
challenge.
horseman.
Yeah.
Woman tries to murder horseman. No, sorry. Woman meets horseman. Horseman kidnaps woman. Woman tries to murder horseman. Woman falls in love with horseman. Horseman redeems himself in humanity.
Nailed it. That's the entire summation of all the books. You got
Bye.
it.
Thanks for coming to this episode of Queens of Spice.
That's
if you
it.
want to
That's all I
follow
have
us on, no.
So,
Jacqueline, they can't see you typing.
so this book follows War and Miriam. Miriam is she's
I
a
really
tragic-
liked her character.
She's lovely. All the women in these books are wonderful. Specifically in War, all of the women in these books are spectacularly written.
See, because I find when you get into some series like this, the tough female character is like just tough.
Yeah.
Opposed to having dimensions. I mean, I shouldn't say dimensions because that sounds like they're writing two-dimensional characters, but like the heavy focus is on the fact that they're tough. But in this, Miriam and Sarah and
Zara.
no, from Pestilence.
Oh, Sarah. Yeah.
And then the other two, like they're
Anna and what's the last
Lazarus.
one? Lazarus.
They have like more to them than just being tough. Like Lazarus has the baby, and like she doesn't have a baby; she finds a baby, but
She steals a baby, basically.
anyway, it's a thing.
It's a whole thing.
Anna is like, you know, hardcore. Like all of them are like different, but have that similar vein of like being hardcore,
Yeah.
but are like soft and not like I don't know. I like the characters.
So point in case, like Sarah is a firefighter. So in
Yeah.
the first book, so she's like tough, but she's also like caring and compassionate.
From Whistler, represent Canada. Thank you.
Yeah. Miriam is.
I'm gonna do my shot real quick.
Oh yeah, we should probably do a shot. I guess
Oh yeah.
it's butterscotch again. Surprise. Tasty. Miriam is. She's a weapons. She makes weapons. And
Yeah, she does.
She has a very tragic
She
backstory.
makes them.
She does, yeah.
Cool.
She does like commissions for weapons, specialty weapons and stuff. Because in the
Yeah.
post-apocalypse world, we should do a little world building here, I guess.
Well, I mean, to be
In the
fair, Miss
post-apocalypse-
Thalassa did the world building. We just kind of went along for the ride.
Yeah, I know, we just like took off. The world building in this one. So the apocalypse has happened. The Four Horsemen landed on Earth. Basically, all electricity and technology has ceased to work, including the internet. You can still use some guns and some TVs and stuff, but it's very spotty. It's not very reliable. So that's what happened. And then 4 years after that,
They disappear. They arrive and then they disappear.
correct. It's called The Arrival.
Yeah.
And then they all kind of part ways. And-
But there's still people.
Yeah,
around?
the world is
Okay.
still
Yeah.
going on.
But the electronic, like everything,
Right.
is dead.
So 4 years after that, Pestilence lands. Then the story of Pestilence takes place, which is the first book in the series.
He starts moving across North America. People start dying, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and then so 12 years after the arrival, this book takes place. So Miriam, I think, is 23 in this book.
Yeah.
So when the horsemen arrived the first time, she would have been like 11, which was when her father passed away.
Yep.
During that first kind of like, there's a big kind of event that happened where all the cars stopped working and like her dad got like hit by a bus on the side of the road or something. Yeah,
Civil
very
War.
tragic. Yeah.
The
Well,
Civil
hold
War.
on. No. That comes later. So 5 years after the arrival of the horsemen in Israel, where this is,
Yeah.
well, now it's called what we known as Israel, a civil war takes place. And, you know, one side loses, obviously, as those things happen. And it's now known as New Palestine. So that's where this takes place initially, where Miriam is from. So during that civil war, her mother and sister and herself are trying to flee
Yes.
for safety, and there's a big accident, and Miriam, it was a boat. There's a big accident, and basically Miriam just like doesn't make it. And you kind of find out later that Miriam was saved by a higher power, I guess I'll say. And she was marked to be bait for the horseman.
Yeah, because she's the only one that can understand his weird language.
Yeah, so he has an ability to speak all languages, and he speaks all these like crazy dead languages just for
Angelic.
funsies. It's not angelic in this particular instance. It's just like a dead language that he's speaking, but she can understand everything he
I thought it was
says.
angelic.
No, he does speak angelic, but it's not.
It's Latin. Let's be real. It's always Latin.
It's pig Latin.
It's. I mean, it could,
Ixnay on the Orste Easpe.
so and then so anyway, that's her tragic backstory, and it makes her a very compassionate person. And you know, she ends up with war, so like she's still trying to help people and save people in whatever way she can. And then the third book is, I think Anna's a hooker,
Yeah, she's a
prostitute. And then the fourth book, Lazarus is adopted with a bunch of other kids.
Well, yeah, because she was found
Yeah, she was found like
when pestilence came. She was found. She was the only person left in a town that pestilence had left decimated.
that's right. And so she basically can't die, hence her name Lazarus.
Yeah,
And that's why she finds a baby and keeps it.
That's a whole different.
But that is part of it. She finds a baby, and it's like her story, like how her mother found her, and she thinks that the baby can't die, similar to her. That's what like.
Can't get sick or die because Lazarus can't get sick either. But then anyway, we're not talking about death today. We're talking about war
I was
today.
gonna say, because that's a whole thing where they
That
like,
is.
murder each other over and over and over again.
It is, yeah. It's originally I was going to cover death, but I don't know. War just speaks to me on a different kind of level.
I.e., Rachel didn't get there in her reread.
Well, that and like rereading War too. It's like I forgot how. I don't know. Like
When you finished it the first time, this was the one that you were shocked that you liked as much as you did based on the content, though. I remember having that conversation.
oh yeah, because there's a couple tropes in here that are not my cup of tea.
Well, you didn't realize were your cup of tea until you realized that they were your cup of tea. Unfortunately, this one does lead to the part that you don't like in that. But it's
Spill
not.
the tea. Spill the tea.
I would like the tea, but I'll say no to the tea later. But it doesn't even feel super tropey. Like,
No, not at all.
Like, it doesn't feel like it's super tropey in that. Like, it feels like it's a natural progression in it. It wasn't something that was written to be like, oh, we're going to have this in the book. It was just
a natural consequence of what was going on at the time.
but I mean,
Lots of fucking happens,
But I mean-
and then people get pregnant.
well, one could argue that like in any of the books, any of them could get pregnant because they do a lot of the fuckings. But
That's true.
This is the one where it's like, because they get from the get go, he's like my wife. Like he's
This, yeah. So this is kind of this is a very interesting kind of enemies to lovers situation, in that she like the first time he meets this woman, he's like, "You're my wife," and then he calls her his wife, and then she's his wife, and that's it.
Does he start off by calling her his wife in English, or does he start off by calling her his wife in that language, and then somebody was like, "No, that means you're his wife."
No, so the way it worked was he said something about her being his wife in one of the dead languages that he speaks for funsies, and she knew what he was talking about, and so he would always like look at her weird when she responded to them because no one else could understand what he was saying. He cites a lot of times, he uses the dead language to yell like commands and stuff, even though nobody can understand it, just because it sounds really intimidating.
Yeah, it's the intimidation factor.
Yeah, which is war through and through. However,
Intimidation with a side of breeding kink.
yeah, so like war is, I wrote in my notes even that he's a total wife guy, in a very literal sense and in the very kind of metaphorical sense. But
Well, his morals are interesting in this because, I mean, all of their morals are interesting in all of it, but the fact that he doesn't want her like penetratively until
she surrenders
to him
Yeah.
is like
Aw, so he doesn't want to rape her? That's so nice.
Yeah,
how courteous of
it's
him.
a definite like sex before marriage thing. Only he considers them already married, but he wants that.
So what he knows, he kind of has seen what happened with pestilence. Like all the brothers of the horsemen, they know kind of what is going on behind the scenes. And so he knew that Pestilence was baited with a woman to kind of change his ways. And so War rolls up, and when he meets Miriam for the first time, he sees this scar that's on her neck. And the scar on her neck is the angelic word for surrender. And so he's like, this is the one they sent for me. This is mine. And that's my wife. And so he just straight up calls her wife right off the bat.
It makes me think of when Pestilence is like, well, I fucked you, now you're mine, and tries to marry her.
Oh my gosh. I just read that like the other day too, and it's just like, I forgot about that part where he's like, but we had sex, now we must be wed. And she's like, oh no, I don't think so.
Yeah. It's like, and that's the thing with these books is like,
the horsemen are not like, they're not like socialized really.
No, not at all. It's definitely post-apocalyptic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's dark in a way that's also interesting. Like, it's not like, it's mildly disconcerting, some of the things that happen. Like, these topics are, famine, war, all of these extra things. But I don't know. It's like graphic, but not graphic. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's dark.
It's very much dark.
But it doesn't feel dark. Like, it's not like you're reading a dark romance. But the topics are darker. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I will say though that from my first read through, as I can recall, Famine is definitely one of the darker books.
Oh, hands down, Famine's dark. Like, of all of them, even with Death isn't as dark as Famine.
Not
is.
Nearly, no.
But it's structured in that you expect it to be darker because of the things in Famine's like all the things that have happened, and like, but the content itself, like the fact that you're dealing with things like pestilence, war, famine, and death, you would expect it. I would have expected it to be a lot darker and heavier, even despite the fact that like they're forcing these women to endure all of the extra things. But it doesn't feel like, oh shit, this is like it doesn't make you not want to read it because it's dark. Like, it's not like you're reading like people being skinned alive and all those kinds of things. It's just,
these are very much coming of age books in a way.
Yeah, for the horsemen.
For the horsemen, yeah. Because the horsemen kind of start off like not knowing anything about anything. I will say though that War is pretty well socialized compared to the rest of them.
I think War has been around for longer though before he gets introduced to Miriam, wasn't he?
He landed about a year roughly.
Oh no!
Oh wow! Like he was there around for a year.
Yeah,
before
so he started in Vietnam. I think he said he rose from, and then made his way across, like, raising armies as he went, and like taking out major cities and all the satellite cities and places around them, all the way to what would be Israel for us. So that's a year's worth basically.
Right.
And then in this book, he progresses from Israel, or New Palestine as they call it, all the way to like the coasts of Egypt. Yeah. That was where they end up, basically.
I thought they like fell from the sky and was like, here's Miriam.
Surprise! Jazz hands. One of the things I kind of dug about the whole concept too was that whatever their power was, they also had the power to do the opposite.
Correct.
So like War had the power to raise the dead.
So the way War explains it, so Pestilence has the ability to inflict viruses and plagues and as well as heal them. Yeah. So he can heal infections, basically. Yeah. War himself has the ability to, what he calls is like attack or destroy people, but also he can heal them.
He raises the dead.
He also raises the dead. He also speaks all languages.
He's just a delight.
He's just an all-around like hardcore dude.
Interesting.
I like when he takes they go off together
for a picnic.
Yeah, for the picnic.
There's a picnic?
Yes. Well, yeah, but she's the feast.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I going to be reading that in the next 10 minutes or so?
You're reading something.
I don't know what Rachel picked.
I would think that Death would be the one who could raise the dead. No?
No. All Death does is literally kill people and bring them back to life.
Is that not?
Yeah, no, no. He,
not like that.
War raises zombies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas Death is like, you're dead. Just kidding, you're alive.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
And Death is like the ultimate virgin.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
What?
Oh yeah, Death.
I mean, Pestilence was also the ultimate virgin.
Yeah, but anybody who Death touches dies.
Yes.
Aside from Lazarus.
Yeah.
Lazarus.
But then he can just bring them right back.
Might kill the mood.
Here's the thing. Well, okay, no, but here's the thing about death is that
like immediately.
Yeah, like you're dead.
Right. Okay.
well, the thing about all of their abilities too is that they choose when they do and do not use them. So death, to a point, because anyone death touches, they die. But death can decide to bring someone back or not. And same with War is that War decides who he heals. And he gets real resentful in some instances when Miriam kind of baits him to heal people.
Okay.
Specifically, one of her friend's nephews. When
He's manipulated a lot.
He is. He's definitely manipulated a lot. But I mean, that's kind of the push and shove of this book.
Why it's the wife guy energy?
And why it's the wife guy energy? Because he ultimately is like he wants to please her. Right off the bat, you get into this book and he like has this utter devotion to her, to this person he's just met. And it's very interesting because I think a lot of it is ingrained in when War explains himself, he talks about how, War as the concept, not as the person, because this is the first time they've been embodied as actual people. War the concept has been around humans the most. And
he was created by humans.
He was created by humans. He lives in the heart of humans. Yeah. And so he knows the heart of humans and he can read the heart of humans.
He knows humanity best.
He does. And so in those instances, he himself has a very heartfelt person. He's very passionate.
Of the four of them, yeah.
Yes, for sure.
He understands the human race better than the other four do, which I think they think makes him softer. Like in Death's eyes, it makes War softest. Or it makes more sense for War to react the way he did because he is so attached to humans.
Mm-hmm. And so it's easy for him to attach himself to Miriam too. And in a lot of ways, he was waiting. He's been waiting for an eternity for her to show up. Like he knew this part of his heart was going to be out there at some point, and he was just waiting for it.
But he also thought that he could get ahead of it. Like he thought that.
Oh, he thought he could best it, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, he's like, oh, Pestilence was too weak, and he got bested by the lady, and then he's like, I'm not gonna do that.
But at the same time, their kind of relationship is this big challenge through and through, and so he's so excited to take on this challenge because War is a battle.
Well, it's a push and pull. Yeah,
and this relationship to him is a battle that he needs to win.
And he doesn't.
Of course he doesn't, because there's 4 books. So when the horsemen what they fail at their task, basically.
Yes.
They're tasked by God, whichever God you want it to be, that's who it is.
They think they were tasked by God.
They assume they were tasked by God to take out this, to undergo their
murdery the human race.
Yeah, they're basically to judge the human race. And so War has to go look into the hearts of men and decide if they should live or die. And then at the end of it, he gets convinced not to do any of that anymore, so he doesn't.
Well, he gets convinced because she ends up, murdered.
I mean, we're jumping to the end here, but yeah, so she ends up dying trying to save him from some explosion stuff that happens. And so she and herself gets exploded and dies. And so
she gets exploded.
She got exploded. And then so
whole...
she dies, and then he ends up basically in front of death. And he's like, I will do anything to bring her back, because at this time as well, she is preggers, as we aforementioned. And War goes and barters with Death to be like, you give me her back right now and that child. And Death is like, okay, then give me your sword.
Powers. Oh,
so that's
never a good idea.
So he gives him his sword, which includes his ability, his powers, and his immortality.
Basically, War gets backstabbed, stabbed in the back. The guys,
the Phobos riders.
Yeah, the Phobos. These guys who are supposed to be his.
God, we really started at the end here.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're basically going here.
Yeah, we're just jumping around, going for a trot.
Yeah, on Demos.
The red horse.
The red horse.
Yeah, the horse.
He's like Clifford, the big red horse.
Yeah, I like horses.
Also, I think we talked about this. War is hung like a horse.
You did mention that.
Okay.
I believe.
I need to reiterate that.
I mean, find me a novel that we read where the guy isn't hung like a horse. And
they specifically call this out in a big way, and I mean that in a big way.
Puns are intended.
Puns are in session.
Rachel knows for a fact she finished reading this book 5 minutes ago.
It was a couple hours ago at this point.
We were left alone. It wasn't good.
to our own devices.
One of my notes in here was that I appreciate the use of centimeters, and I just want to hold on.
As a Canadian.
As a Canadian, I appreciate the use of centimeters. Also, as a Canadian, when they're like, yeah, he's like 2 meters tall, I had no fucking clue how tall that was.
Right?
I wrote that and then immediately regretted it.
They're not measuring his penis in centimeters.
No, they're measuring his height in centimeters in this instance.
I feel like Canadians get the short end of the stick in a lot of these things because like things are measured in ways that we're like, okay, and then things are like weight and things were like, okay, and then we have to go and look it up.
Yeah, I today was just like converting ounces to grams. I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't tell you. I just use my conversion stuff for everything now.
Yeah.
I just can't be bothered to learn that.
All
so
we know
you
is
were happy with centimeters, but not meters.
Okay, so here's the thing.
The cent is
the nuance here is that most books that are written by American authors, which this is, are everything is in inches regardless of where it geographically takes place.
Right.
This takes place in the Middle East. They would be using centimeters. So they use centimeters in the book. But in Pestilence, I'm pretty sure they used inches.
I have no idea. I did not pay that much attention
to
the use
but basically,
in measurement.
Basically you were just impressed that they used centimeters.
It was consistent, yeah, with the location of where, because it was like it's from her perspective, the book.
But that's actually a good point. Like each of these books is located in a different area, and it's okay. I say it seems like it's very true to those areas. I've never been in these areas, obviously, so like, excuse my white ignorance, right? And my lack of travel in my world. But it seemed like she tried really hard to maintain the atmosphere, what am I trying to say?
The vibe. I mean,
or the vibe.
Well, not even that, but like, so Miriam in general, to your point, Miriam is half Arabic. No, sorry, I apologize. She's half Muslim, half Jewish.
Yes.
So that in itself is kind of a big deal in the area that they live in.
Yes.
Because after, okay, let me remember this book. So after Israel fell and became New Palestine, a lot of people went back to the old ways in that area of like not mixing families like that. So you never have like, so she's quite looked down upon for being half Jewish and half Muslim. She keeps things kind of, or she appears to, from again my ignorant white standpoint, in her books tries to keep things very real to the geographical location that and I will say too, because the way Laura writes this book in particular, Miriam's best friend ends up being Zara, who is she wears a hijab, and Miriam is always kind of like very, not sensitive, but very attuned to that, where she like won't bring her, when she's bringing her food and drink, she won't bring her wine, or she'll bring her wine and set it aside. Like it's like she knows she's bringing it to be nice, but she knows she won't drink it, sort of thing. And like there's a moment where like her hijab had fallen or was being, blown around by wind or something, and Miriam fixes it for her. Yes. That kind of stuff. So it's very much like
small details.
It's very small details that made a big impact, I would say. That felt very authentic to that area.
Well, from the standpoint of somebody who has not lived in that area.
From the North American standpoint, who have never been to Israel.
Yeah. I mean, it could be completely inaccurate, and we could be talking at our asses, so please forgive us. But it was the authenticity. It provided with a level of like perceived authenticity.
Yeah, and a lot of it too is because a lot of this stuff is very biblical. Obviously, the horsemen, like, very biblical. They make a point in Pestilence to mention that it's no one God that they follow.
I really like the way that the way that she wrote that, and that like God could be female, God could be male, like that whole concept of the higher power. That was I appreciated the way that was broached. So
in Pestilence, for example, he specifically brings it up that, well, I call him because you call him. Yeah. It's like you humans are the ones that shaped your God, so I use the same terms you use, not because God is nothing and God is everything.
Yeah.
So it's not that he's necessarily agreeing. He's just trying to speak like that.
Yeah, they're not. So God isn't gendered, and God isn't one religion in this instance. It's all religions, it's all genders, and
So
it's
is
none.
it all? Sorry, is it all the same in like each of the 4 books?
Mm-hmm.
So like the Four Horsemen all have like the same belief, knowledge, whatever, but the 4 women have different.
I guess. I
perspectives and
mean,
knowledge or
perspectives and knowledge. I suppose. Like they're not. I don't think any of them actually worship God.
I don't. Well, I mean, Anna definitely doesn't.
No, Sarah didn't.
And Sarah, no.
Sarah didn't like general terms, but like, oh yeah, I know the existence of Catholic God.
There's
And then of course, like, so you have Miriam, who's Muslim and Jewish. Like, which one? Pick one.
well, and there's no like distinctive Christian themes through it.
Gosh, no. I would say no. There's no. I would say there's no distinct religion of any genre in this. It's like a distinct absence of it.
In one of them, they call God a she. Which one is that? Do you remember?
They kind of bring it up in Pestilence briefly, but that's kind of more of a debate. But like, well, God's a she. And he's like, yeah, well, he's she and him and none of them. Yeah. And God is above gender terms, basically.
Oh yeah, I love the note. Horsemen don't shit or piss.
So
that was kind of important though, because was it him that was like, what? Not important, but like it was one of those things. Was it him that was like pissed off that he now had to go to the bathroom, or was that Famine? One of them was upset when he was like turned human that he now had to go to the bathroom.
It must be Famine because it's definitely not War or Pestilence.
Well, all I know is one of them was pissed off because he now had to use the bathroom, and it was incredibly inconvenient.
very inconvenient.
Yeah, I guess because they kind of come together in the end of the series in Death. They kind of come together as mortals, because I think Pestilence at that point is the only one who doesn't get stripped of his powers.
Yeah, because Death won't do it.
Yeah, Death refuses to strip his powers.
Death won't take his powers unless he murders Anna.
Yeah,
and he refuses to do that. And what I did appreciate about that too is Pestilence was like, because it was so spread apart. Pestilence and Famine had been on Earth for so long prior to, like, Pestilence and War were like older, and they weren't like all super young going at Death in that. Am I making sense?
Yeah, so they did. Yeah, so there's 8 years between the first 2 horsemen, and then I don't remember when Pestilence. Although I want to say Death ends up being like 25 years, basically.
Yeah,
from the original arrival. So like basically, Pestilence has aged about 21 years from when he landed, and he does age. Man. Yeah, and then War does as well, but
and they has the family.
They all got the families.
And he's okay, but War is like girl dad.
Yeah, so at the end of the book, there's a big spoiler at the end of the book, is that her mother and sister are actually alive. They never actually died in the accident that basically took Miriam. We should talk about that too. Miriam was dead during that accident, and then she was returned with the mark on her neck to bait War.
I think the mark was a scar from the.
It was, but it's a very distinct scar.
Yeah, it was a scar from the boat exploded or something, didn't it?
It was, and Moore specifically says, like, you were given that scar.
Yeah.
To be mine.
I often wondered, though, if it was a matter of, like, he believed that she was given the scar because it's one thing he wanted to believe, or whether, like, it actually was like, no, you were given that scar.
So this is
interpretation.
This is kind of the thing, and I think part of that, it's a little subtext of the religious aspect of it, of like, hey, if you believe it, then it's true, and if you didn't, then it was divine right. So either way, you're right.
I'll take your word for it. You said divine, my brain shut off.
Fair. It's tough, but fair.
Can we go back to talking about the horse?
Demos?
He's big and red.
He's a big red horse. And he loves Miriam. Loves her.
I feel like all the horses love all the women, though, don't they?
They get along with... Yeah, they're definitely, like, fond of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Horses are weird like that.
They like people?
No, they like have very strong senses about people.
I can see that.
I mean, that's fair. The girls definitely, like, the women are definitely make the horsemen's lives, well, I mean, with the exception of Anna, I suppose she kind of bugs Famine beyond belief, but
they definitely like make their mark on them as
yeah,
people.
it's like an enrichment of their lives.
For sure. So we're gonna get Jacqueline to read something.
I don't even know what this is going to be, because I don't feel like there was any naughty talk at all.
I mean,
Well, just talk about how giant his penis is.
well, and like he eats her out a lot.
He's
like a lot. And that I did really appreciate that like in the beginning I was like, is this gonna be a slow burn? And then I was like, no, this isn't a slow burn. There's a lot of oral sex in this.
Yeah, so what happens is she gets into making deals with him because he's going off to war every day and just like wholesale killing cities and just wiping the floor with everyone, and then raising his dead armies to kill anyone that's left. So there is nobody left in these cities. And so humans do not have a chance against him whatsoever. And because of this wholesale slaughter that's going on, they can't get messages out to other cities. And so like nobody has any idea where war is at any given time. And this is also, so she makes a deal with him to protect the aviaries in the next town that he's going to raise. And in order to, so her barter with him is that like, hey, I'll give you a little hanky panky, and but he doesn't want to like go all the way with her because he wants her to surrender to him before he like sticks his pee in her.
Right, because she still hasn't like acknowledged that she's his wife or whatever.
Basically,
or
Right.
surrendered to him.
yeah.
The way he wants her to.
Mm-hmm. So because of that, there's a lot of oral sex. So
It's like
he
a
goes down on her a
compromise.
lot, and he really enjoys it. And she, like, sucks his cock a whole bunch as well because she's like, well, I got to give up my end of the bargain. That's only fair. And he's like, okay.
Because what man turns that down?
Seriously. So that happens a lot. Like that goes on and on for, I would say, like almost half the book before we get to this little part that you're going to read.
Okay.
He also has his like undead army guard her when he's get like angry with her. It's like, haha. And isn't there like a weird smell and stuff?
So his undead army are in various levels of decay.
Yeah.
So they go anywhere from freshly killed with still gaping wounds to skeletons.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's one part where he raises a skeleton because she asks him about it, and he raises a skeleton of a horse. And the horse trots over to her and like rubs its head against her, like
Is that on their picnic?
Yeah. Well, it was on one of their like they always go ahead of the armies when they move, and so it was one of their like overnight rendezvous, as it were.
Yeah.
So she like travels around with him as he kills
Yeah. So
villages and towns.
He
and
has
cities
these like
of people.
encampments. Like
he has this huge encampment of like I think he's 5,000 soldiers strong, plus like support people that are there as well.
Plus the undead people.
He raises the undead when he needs them. But then sometimes later on in the book, he keeps them around instead of having actual guards.
Well, later on he needs them because she's like challenging everything.
Down the road, he kills everyone in his camp.
Yeah.
And then he absolutely needs the undead guards to take care of things.
He uses them as a means of manipulating her in a sense.
Yes.
Because he knows she hates them.
Well, I mean, there's that. He has to come up with very clever ways to punish her because he refuses to like he will never kill her, and anyone who has ever crossed him before, all he ever did to them was kill them, and he's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, I can't kill her,
And he doesn't want to hurt her. Like he's a total
wife guy. He actually loves her.
He genuinely wants to like take care of her.
But
and
she's a handful.
Already withholding the sex, so
yeah.
So we're gonna read this thing.
It's just a simple physical act, I reassure myself. Plenty of people do this. It's no big deal. The horseman's hand goes back to my clit, maybe to tease me some more, but I'm already drenched. He flashes a wicked smile when he feels how ready I am. Wife, how I have anticipated this day, and now to see your sweet body aching for mine, I find I am more eager for this than even battle. He says this like he surprised himself a little. Whatever, I'm past the point of caring. All I know is that I need the horseman in me in a way I haven't needed anything in a long time. He strokes me again and again, even though he doesn't need to, even though I'm already mad with desire. I arch into each touch, desperate for more. Suddenly, his hand is gone. His hips shift, and a moment later, I feel the tip of him press against my opening. I tense, remembering how big he is. After holding him in my hand and on my tongue, I thought I understood his size, but I didn't. I'm only realizing that now. With one slow stroke of his hips, I feel war begin to enter. He hisses as he meets resistance. Relax, wife. We were meant to fit together. Only a woman with a vagina as big as a crater was meant to fit War's cock.
Jesus.
Huge. They talk about it a lot.
Amazing. Crater vagina. The horseman waits until he feels me begin to relax, my legs spreading a little wider. He begins to push in again. Dear God. It seems impossible, and yet I feel my flesh give way, making room for his seemingly unbearable size. My fingers dig into his back when the stretching becomes too much. He pauses, staring down at me. Miriam, just give me a moment. It's a lot of dick. So much dick. I can feel beads of sweat forming on my forehead. After several seconds, I nod. Okay, I'm okay. War continues his slow sink into me, his gaze searching mine. Wife, he says, looking gobsmacked. You feel incredible. War's face is nothing short of rapturous. I know he's seasoned at this, so I'm surprised to see how much it's affecting him. His eyes are intensely focused on me. I'd have assumed that they'd be drifting far, far away as sensation overwhelmed him, but he's so present, disconcertingly present. He's sweating with his need to move slow, to be gentle. I can tell a driving force in him wants to thrust his cock inside me as fast as possible, and then to fuck me with abandon. I can practically feel him vibrating with the need. Maybe he'll eventually do that, but I don't think that will happen today. It takes ages, but finally his hips meet mine as he seats himself fully inside me, stretching me to my limits. I release a breath. I don't know if I've ever felt anything so exquisite in my life, and he hasn't even started moving yet. I have waited ages for this moment, he says. Cannot believe it's finally upon me. War smiles again, and I can't get over how unbearably handsome he is. Oh, so sweet. I'm shaking with need, my legs splayed on either side of him, feeling more vulnerable than I ever have. I didn't expect that. This was supposed to just be sex. But the way War is staring down at me, it feels like everything I've worked so hard to brick away is being exposed all at once. Finally, my wife, you have surrendered.
Thank you, Jack.
Whoa!
When you said abandon, I thought you were gonna say a Band-Aid. Not even gonna lie. I was like,
Put a Band-Aid on that cooter. It's big.
A Band-Aid. A Band-Aid.
Band-Aid.
It's a big vagina and it needs a Band-Aid.
It's a crater.
A crater.
Crater.
It's a crater.
You need a crater to fit that.
Crater cooch needs a Band-Aid.
Crater cooch. Is that the title of our episode, guys?
Oh, man.
Crater cooch.
It's not.
Needs a Band-Aid.
I mean, yeah. Who doesn't need a Band-Aid on that?
So she finally surrendered.
She did. That was the scene where she finally surrendered to him.
And then she surrenders again.
And again.
And again.
And then he finds out that it was actually him who was supposed to surrender. Because that's how all of these work.
Well, yeah, because that's kind of the whole thing is like, they think that they're there to do God's will on earth, but really they're there to like learn the lesson.
Yeah, and like, so Pestilence was mercy, I believe. He saw the angelic script for mercy appear on Sarah's tent in the beginning of the book. And so he thought that he was to show her mercy. But it turned out that he was the one that had to learn mercy himself. And so this is the same way where like War was like, oh, this is my wife. She's to surrender to me. And it's actually you're the one who needs to surrender.
Boys are so dumb.
I don't think they get together and take notes, honestly. It's kind of, a divine thing.
And then there's Famine, who was like the dumbest of them all.
Oh my God, Famine's hilarious. Right until the end, he's like,
Famine's hilarious.
He was
best quote ever.
Good old Famine.
Well, I mean, Famine's like arguably the darkest too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I want to go reread that again.
Yeah, definitely. For all like the sexual innuendo between him and
well, she's a prostitute. Like,
yeah,
she lays on thick.
I can get off on my own. Yeah, I know. You've mentioned it several times. Me too, Anna. Me too.
I will say that War is, I think, like one of the horrorest ones of the group.
Did you say horrorist?
Horrorist. He's
horriest?
He's had the more horriest. He has had the most sexual partners of anyone.
Well, I mean, you think Famine is a virgin up until he's like, no, I fucked people. I just haven't talked about it the way you've talked about it. Though arguably one of my favorite moments in this entire series is when she stops Famine before Famine goes to have sex with her. He's like, I've been with a lot of men. He's like, yeah, I can't catch diseases, so you're fine. You're good.
You're good. It's okay.
It's good. And then she's like, what
I'm
about
immortal.
birth control? And he's like, nothing grows unless I want it to.
My.
It was just, I like the detail there. I like the detail in a lot of this, though.
I like that detail.
I don't know. But it's attention to detail, right? Like that's what kind of makes or breaks. I personally find makes or breaks a good story. It's similar to Muscles and Monsters, the one that we reviewed a couple weeks ago. The detail that the author puts into the monsters is what makes the book good. Like,
it feels authentic.
It gives it more layers, and it gives it more. It makes me more interested. So, excuse me, to do that with this one, I like it more. Yeah, horses.
So, to that point, how many horses would you rate this out of 4 horses?
War itself,
just War, yeah. Well, just this one book.
Like War itself, I'd say like 2.5 horses, 3. Like I liked it. It wasn't my favorite in the series.
Which one was your favorite?
That's a good question. Probably Death.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, I like different things about different ones. I really like War as a character, but. The character isn't enough to really pull the story together for me. Well, obviously, I guess. But I really like Death. I like the banter in Famine. But Death is also when it kind of like becomes something different than just like the standard.
That's right. It breaks the mold in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Yeah. And like the fact that they're going after him and all that stuff. So yeah, like we'll say I'll say a generous 3. A generous 3 horses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I give this like 3.25 horses. The thing that really stuck with me, I would say, about this book are the female characters.
Yes,
was a big feature for me in that like they all felt very authentic and very unique and kind of refined, and I believe them as characters, which was lovely.
Well, they're fleshed out, like
super fleshed out.
I'm still doing the Phoenix Back series, and all of the female characters are strong, ball busting, which is great. I love to read strong female characters. But their softness is so like understated, and it's like it's that point of making sure you know the character's badass. Like, yeah, okay, I get the character's badass, but give me more to the character. Which is what I liked about Miriam, Sarah, Anna, and Lazarus, is that there's more to them than just like they're badass. They're going up against the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, but they're more than just like hardcore.
They're more than just a nice vagina.
A crater cooch.
They're more than just one crater cooch.
They're more than what their coochies provide. How many horses, Jack?
They're more than what their cooch can hold.
Bag of holding.
A cooch of holding.
A cooch of holding.
That's probably in the book of erotic fantasies. I imagine with the time traveling anal beads, but it's in there.
Oh my god! You had to bring up time traveling anal beads.
Listen, I still have that book.
Is that in the book with Uncle Jake? Uncle Jake and the time traveling anal beads.
I think
Worlds collided right there.
I think that's a book we're reviewing later. I'm not sure.
Perfect. I'm in for that one.
Horses. How many?
Horses. I don't feel like this one doesn't interest me at all.
So yeah, you don't know much about the horsemen in general?
No,
You're not really into like kind of fantasy.
I don't like religious-y type
Yep.
anything or history. Or stories.
So no redeeming factors.
Yeah, there's real it wasn't super awkward to read my part.
I will say I mentioned this earlier of this book doesn't use a lot of the words that Ashton doesn't like.
Or me, yeah.
Or you.
I love how it's just Ashton does.
Well, there's those words like panties and cream and moist and that stuff. They don't use those kind of words.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's pretty chill.
Yeah.
It's pretty chill sex scenes.
Crater vagina was a little weird.
That was kind of weird.
But it didn't really affect me too negatively.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I gave it half a horse or something, I guess.
It didn't instill wonky feelings.
Hold on. Is it the top half of the horse or the bottom half of the
Well,
horse?
I'm going to have to go with the bottom half because that's the one with the penis. Just,
Yeah, makes sense.
And if he is penis, horse-sized penis. If we were to compare this to Bo and Bonnie.
Wait, I'm thinking about centaurs again. So it's not a horseman, right? It's a man that owns a horse.
It's a man that drives a horse.
It's a man that drives
oh my
a
goodness.
horse.
Let me just rethink this again.
The penis is still on the bottom
Yeah,
half. Whether
it's still the bottom half.
Okay.
whether he owns the horse or he is the horse, the penis is still on the bottom half.
That is true.
Okay.
What about Bo and Bonnie?
If you were to compare the two, can you remember back that far?
I can kind of remember Bo and Bonnie.
Because that one she rated really poorly. Oh no, maybe it was me who rated it really
I did
poorly.
rate that really
We
poorly.
all rated that very poorly.
But it was quite awkward, I feel like, for me to read also.
Okay, so you found that one was more awkward to read than this one was awkward to read.
I think so.
You could just be desensitized to it now.
It could be, yeah.
This is also fact.
We've come so far.
But it could just depend on the strange languages, words. I don't know if Bonnie made me say creamy panties or not. I don't remember.
You're killing me. You're just I should never have asked the question.
But Miriam's kind of like an old lady name, but so is Bonnie. So I don't appreciate the names in this book.
So, I mean, that brings us to the end of it, I guess. Thank you guys for joining me. If y'all want to send me an email, queensofspice@gmail.com. You want to follow us on the Instagrams or the Twitters. That's Queens of Spice. And we'll see you next time.
Ooh.
What's up?
We're also still trying to find a book for Ashton to read.
We're still looking for a DNF for Ashton. If anybody has any ideas for DNF, please send me an email or hit us up on the social medias and let us know any particular trigger or content warnings on that. And then we'll go through and we'll find one.
Nothing involving a hurricane, please. I have
Fresh wounds.
fresh wounds from that one.
And nobody named Fifi. Bye.
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 Thanks for listening to the Queens of Spice podcast. You'll find us on Instagram and Twitter at Queens of Spice. Or if you want to send us an email, you can reach us at queensofspice@gmail.com.